Well, hello everyone. Dan Hurd with Dan Hurd Prospecting here. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be cleaning up some gold cons with the spiral wheel. Now, I've done lots of videos on clean up gold cons before with the Miller table, the gold cube, the blue bowl, a gold pan, but I've never done a video with the spiral wheel before. So today, I'm going to show you how the spiral wheel works, what it does, what it's good at, what it's not good at, and all about the spiral wheel and cleaning up gold cons. If this information is important to you or sounds interesting, please make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode. So today, the spiral wheel. I hope you enjoy. Now the cons I have to work with today, they come from the Fraser River. Mike, my dad, and I went for a prospecting trip to the Fraser a couple weekends ago, and we pushed the winter season too far. There was too much snow on the ground was frozen way too hard, it was stormy, it was miserable. We pushed it too far. We didn't do all that well, but we did come home with some cons. We're thinking there's a couple grams of gold in here, we're hoping. And I'm going to use the spiral wheel today to clean up these cons and see what we actually found that day. I did not get a video on that day. The weather was just too bad to shoot a video. Now my first step here will be to classify this down to about 20 mesh. I don't need to get this a really tight classification. It's not like the blue bowl where we need it really tight classifying. But if I take this down to about 20 mesh, anything bigger than that I can pan out easy. Anything smaller than that, the spiral wheel can deal with. So I'm going to go do that off camera. I'll come back with just fine sand to deal with in the spiral wheel. The stuff that's in there right now, I was just testing things this morning before I did the video because I'm not an expert with the spiral wheel at all. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I filmed anything because I only just barely know how to use this machine. I know the theory behind it, I know the concept, but I don't use it that often. So I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I put anything on camera. I'll be back in a minute. So I have the cons all sifted down to roughly 20 mesh. I just used a kitchen strainer for doing that. I've got the wheel all cleaned out. I've got tipped back at the right angle. I'll explain the angle in water in just a second. There's a little bit of jet dry in the water so gold doesn't float away on us. Though that being said, I've never seen gold float in the spiral wheel before. I don't know if it's needed. So there are 3 adjustments on my spiral wheel here. It's an 18-inch spiral wheel. There are 3 adjustments that you can do. You can change the angle, you can change how much water flows through it, and you can change how fast it spins. By adjusting those 3 variables, you can tell the gold what to do. Whether you want the gold staying in the bottom, you want the gold climbing up, you want the gold falling out, you want to reduce your cons, you want to clean up the gold. It's all about changing those 3 variables to get the wheel to do what you want with your gold. And every gold, every size and shape and kind of gold reacts differently to those variables. So sometimes you have to play with those according to your gold. I have really, really flat, thin gold here from the Fraser. This wheel does not deal with flat, thin gold well. So I have to play with the water flow and everything to try to make it catch that gold. My first step here is to get this spiral wheel to reduce the volume of the cons. And I'm going to get to do that by tipping it back to about a 45-degree angle, so quite a bit back. I'm going to get the water flow fairly high and this speed of the rotation right in the middle. At that point, I'm going to put my material in the bottom here and just let the action of the spiral wheel get rid of most of the black sand, most of the blondes and the black sand. It is really good at The spiral wheel is really good at reducing the volume of your cons. I have tested the tailings many, many times when it's just reducing the cons. I've never seen even a speck of gold go away in this first step. So it's really, really good at that. I should talk about sort of the theory here. These grooves, they're shaped like the riffles in a sluice, and as the water flows over them, the gold is getting caught in the riffles, but because it's a spiral constantly moving, the riffle itself is constantly moving up towards the center. So as the gold gets caught in them, it's being lifted towards the center. Water is being flown over, flowing the black sand away. The gold is staying in the bottom of the grooves, coming up to the center. You adjust the water so that, well, depending on what you're doing, it's either flushing the gold back down into the con mix or not flushing it out and letting it fall into the hole, which puts it into a little cup in behind. To start with, we'll keep the water flow fairly high, but the angle quite steep back, and it will flush lots of the gold back down into the cons. There's still going to be lots of gold and black sand going through the hole into the cup, but we're just worried about reducing the cons to start with. We'll actually take that whole cup of black sand and gold afterwards and put it back in before we clean up the gold completely. Enough talking, let's do it. High water flow, a bit too fast. Medium speed, about a 45-degree angle. And we can put our cons in here and let it start to process the cons. To start with, you might see that some of the black sand is climbing the riffles here. Some of it's actually fallen through. I don't care how much is falling through right now. We're going to take that whole cup and put it back in here in a second. What I'm worried about is how much is going over this front edge, because this is how it's reducing the volumes right now, by washing some of the lighter stuff over and away. As I said before, I've caught this and tested it many times over, and I've never found a flake yet that has made it over that edge when I'm just doing this initial reduction. And like right now, I can catch some of that and just see what's in it, and of course, there's no gold there. Make sure the water flow is nice and high here. I have a little bit running over the edge, but this is where I start my adjustments. What I want to do now is I want to bring the angle of this whole thing up. There's a little adjustment right here. I'm going to start cranking it up until I start seeing a more significant volume of this black sand coming over this front edge. Now I start seeing some flowing over. There we go. We have a fair amount of black sand coming over this front edge now. I can check it and make sure they're not losing gold. No gold in there. And it depends on how long you want to let this run. If you want to go quick and possibly lose gold, you can crank this angle way up, but that's when you might lose gold. If you want to take your time and just let this run, I can go away for 20 minutes now. I can just shut everything, shut the camera off. I can just go and have coffee and let this go for 20 minutes and let it reduce its volume. I don't care what gets in the hole, because I'm going to take that cup and dump it back in. Right now, I'm just trying to reduce the volume of black sand by letting it flow over this front edge. And it's just going to continue doing that right now for however long I leave it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run for about half an hour. But every 5 minutes, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to give it another crank on the angle. Bring it up a bit more so a bit more starts going over that edge. After about a half hour of that, there should be only maybe a cup worth of material left in here that's going to have all the gold in it. At that point, I will take that little bin of the cup in behind, dump it back in so all of the gold and the heaviest of the black sand will be in here, and then I'll start collecting what I want. But I'm going to just let this go for a while and just reduce the volume. Every once in a while, come and give it another twist, bring its angle up so more black sand goes over that front edge. I will see you in a bit. Now I've only left it for about 10 minutes and I've already got my stuff reduced way down here. So I may have been pushing it a little too hard, cranking it up so much. So I'm going to back it off a little bit now. But I have less, I've got half a cup of material, if that, in there. So not very much. So I'm just going to crank it back a little bit here. Just to make sure my water's turned up, water's still up, crank it back. Now I'm going to shut everything off for a second. I'm going to shut off the spiral for a second so nothing more will go into the hole. We're all good. Nothing's flowing over. We're all happy. Now I can take the cup of material here and I can put it back in. So anything that made it up originally, any gold, any black sands are in there. I can turn the spiral back on. Now I'm watching right here to see what is going into the cup. And I can adjust things. At this point, I can adjust three things to get the gold to go in. I can either speed up the rotation, and that lifts the gold faster. I can reduce the amount of water washing over, so it slows down how fast it washes it away. Or I can crank the angle back so that it's easier for the ripples to lift the gold into the hole. Any of those will bring gold into the center hole. And it depends on your gold of what you need to do. I know my gold is really flat, so I have to make it so it doesn't flitter in the water flow. So my best bet for my gold is to reduce the water flow. So I'm going to turn down the water, and I'm going to keep turning it down, and keep turning it down, watching right here. What I want to see is I want to see little specks starting to make it into the cup. Let me bring the camera down here and show you that. Now, right now I see black sand going in, so I may have turned it down too much. But I'm okay with a bit about black sand going in because I know I can pan that out really quickly. So right now I've got gold flakes and black sand going in. Maybe a bit too much black sand, so I can take my angle, pull my angle up a bit more, get to the higher angle, and that will reduce the amount of black sand but still let a lot of the gold go in with that water flow. This is sort of the dance I need to do, get the three variables just right so it works perfectly for my gold. So I'm going higher and higher and higher right now. Now I see almost pure gold, very low black sand going into that cup. I can also speed up the wheel a little bit. Right now, it's looking good. Maybe a bit more going in. So I'll just take the speed and turn my speed of spiral up just a little bit. There's a bit more, I see a bit more black going in with it, with a bit faster speed. Still keeping my water very low because I don't want those big flat flakes to flitter away in the water. water flow for my gold is the thing that keeps the gold from getting in. If you had coarse gold, really thick, chunky gold, you could keep the water just cranked and it'd be fine. There we go. I see it concentrating gold really well right now. Let's bring the camera in again, because it's concentrating really well. Let's see if I can get more light on. Now I'm going to leave it concentrate like this for about 5-10 minutes and see how it's doing. I know a lot of my gold is still hanging out down in here and not actually climbing. I'm going to do what I can at this setting. I'll pull that gold out, and then we're going to make it a little bit more aggressive. A little more of the black sand, higher angle, and it'll start catching some of the gold that's hanging out down in here. So big flat flakes aren't wanting to get up through this water flow. Now that it's run like that for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it's been, I'm going to shut the spiral off. Switch. Shut the spiral off. There's still lots of gold. I can actually see the gold down in here right now, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cup now. Put it in my pan. And have a look at the gold. And you can see that that is fairly clean gold in there. There is a bit of black sand in with it. But honestly, that would take me less than a minute to clean up that gold from the black sand. So I'm going to put that aside now as I get a bit more aggressive to get the gold that's not been able to climb through this water. Cup's back in place. Remember to put the cup back in place. I've forgotten too many times, and you get mad when you do that, because you throw away your gold. Spiral back on. And now we're going to tip the whole unit back farther. We're going to change the angle here, tip it all back farther, which is going to make it easier for the gold to travel up. We're also going to reduce our water. By doing the two of those things, we're going to get a lot more black sand going into that cup. But we're also going to get those bigger flakes that don't like to travel up through this water flow. It's funny how the big flakes are actually the difficult ones to catch. Okay. Now I'm getting a lot more black going in. Let's bring the camera down. See a lot more black sands climbing up and going in, but the bigger flakes are going in with it. And honestly, when you go to clean it up, that coarse black sand that's going in right now is really easy to pan out. It takes me only seconds to separate the gold from that coarse black sand that's going in there. So even though I'm getting a lot more black sand in with the gold right now, it's not that big of a deal. Now I won't leave it too long like this, because otherwise I'll just grab all the black sand. But I think what I'm seeing right now is I don't see any more flakes going in, I just see black sand going in. So I'm going to turn it off and just see what I see in here for gold. I still see a bit of gold. Let's have a look at what's in the cup. So you can see there's a lot more black sand this time, but the bigger flakes have all come out with this. Honestly, it would just take me a couple minutes to tap those flakes. Not even a couple minutes. Less than a minute to tap those flakes out of that black sand to clean that up. So that will be easy to clean up. Put that aside now, and we're going to deal with what's left in here. Okay, now I'm going to reduce my water flow to nothing but a trickle. Pull my angle back a bit. And what this is doing now is it's just sucking the rest of the black sand out. This black sand that's left in here now is really, really coarse black sand. It's just the biggest of the big that's left. So I'm just pulling it all back into that cup. Even slow down the spiral a bit more so it just grabs the rest of that. And there it is clean. Now, we are losing light in this dungeon of a garage of mine, so I'll probably do the final cleaning on the kitchen table in a bin again. This is all the black sands that were left in the cube. There's still a lot of gold in there. I think that's cool. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to get that gold out, because the way that the spiral wheel has refined this stuff, it's only very coarse black sand that's left, and that will be very easy to clean up. The other stuff down in there is almost all clean. I had to move up to the kitchen because the light was just failing in the dungeon of my garage. So here is the oversized stuff. I know it has nothing to do with the spiral wheel, but it was the stuff that didn't go through the spiral wheel. And everyone loves looking at gold, so there's the gold and the oversized stuff. I'll quickly get that all separated out so I can include it in the way up. Here's the stuff from the fairly clean run of the spiral wheel. And then here is sort of what was left behind. I'm going to clean those two up nice and clean, then add it all together and weigh it up and see what we get. Big stuff first. There's the oversized stuff cleaned up. It took me all of 30 seconds to get that out of the blacks. So that was easy. Move on. Moving on. So this is the stuff that was mostly cleaned by the spiral wheel. You can see it still has black sand in it, for sure. But the black sand that's in it is so coarse that it's going to just run right away from that gold. There we go. Basically clean gold up there. Tap that up to the top edge.
timing. We have a pile of clean gold. The coarse black sand is so big and thick it just rolls away. This stuff, easy to separate. Now here are the leftovers. This is what was left in the spiral wheel after it was done, basically. So there's still lots of gold in it. And if we start backwashing here, you're going to see that gold come out the top. This is typically your bigger flakes because they're the ones that just cannot fight the water flow. But again, that coarse black sand washes away so easily from the gold that it takes no time at all to clean it up. Oops, I lost one flake. Put it back. There we are, nice and clean. There's a bit of black sand up there, but I can clean that up in just seconds here. All this down here, all black, no gold, just gold up here. Let's tap it all into the corner. You may see, I'm not sure if the camera picks it up at all, you may see a bunch of gray up in there. There's a lot of platinum coming out with this stuff. Small platinum, but there's a lot of it there, so that's the gray you see in here. And there you go. That's what was left behind. I'll go and put that with the other gold, do the final little cleanup because there's a bit of black sand that came out with it, and then weigh it up. Well, there it is. I'm going to go heat it up and dry it out and weigh it up and see what it comes out to. There's the gold, all dried out. Let's see what it weighs out to. We got all zeroed. There we go. It's all in the tray. Let's make any guesses. I'm guessing well over 2. Let's see. 3.189. 3 grams of gold. Now there are 3 of us working that day, so it sounds like 1 gram each. But I'm going to give all of this to Mike, because Mike had a bad day that day. Mike's truck broke down and we got stuck because of it. So, Mike, you get 3 grams of gold from that day. Well, the light is failing in my garage. I have lamps here lighting me up. Hopefully there's enough to get this last video clip in. Thank you to my patrons out there. Because of your support, I can do these videos for all of YouTube to watch. Please consider becoming a patron. There's a link at the end of the video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so. And please leave a like to the video and say something in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope the information was useful, or at least enjoyable to watch. So until the next video, everyone.